Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is, wherever you are right now. Thank you for tuning in to the Conversations with Dr. Don show. The show is produced and broadcast from the Portland, Oregon area. And for your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of 1-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals and about whatever it is we've decided to talk about tonight. And we've talked together a number of times in the past, and Rick keeps bugging me and coming back, and I keep chasing him down because he's always got interesting stuff to talk about. Rick, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
How many shows have you been on so far in the last 18 years?
God, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6, I don't know, something like that.
Okay. But we'll go through, we probably won't do as much detail in the first half because you've been on a number of times, but it's been a while now, so we'll do a lot of detail because I want people to hear where you're coming from deep in your heart. You've got a heart, don't you?
I do, yes.
You've lived it. I'm glad to see you. All right, so the first half of Who Are You segment, I talk with my guests a little about who they are personally so that we might get a bit of an appreciation of why they say what they say.
Okay.
In the second segment, we'll talk about, I'm afraid to say it, how can humans be so smart and so dumb at the same time? And I want to find out what that is myself. So, shall we get going?
Sure.
Okay. If I would ask your best friend, who is Rick? Be your best friend. Rick is what?
You're going to hit me with one of those horrible, unanswerable questions again.
That's right.
You do this every time, Don.
And you forget.
This is right up there, like, what is life all about, or whatever.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
You're doing it again. Some things never change. Okay, all right.
What would your best friend? Rick is what?
Oh, I would hope my best friends would say
Rick is
engaged, an activist.
Start off with the proper question. Rick is be your best friend.
Okay, all right, be my best friend. An activist, a goofball. I like to have fun.
Mostly that.
Committed, to a number of causes. I think,
Yeah.
A partier. I like to have fun. I like parties and getting together with people.
You do cannabis?
No, I don't.
See, I'm testing you.
You're testing me. Yes. I don't even drink that much. I do. I'm a cheap drunk, so after one beer or one glass of wine, that's it. After that I start losing it. So
One shot of
I
Jack.
better stay sober, Don. That's all there is to it.
So when and where were you born?
I was born in Irvington, New Jersey.
New Jersey.
New Jersey, and back in 1949. So October 18th. I'm a Libra.
What does that mean, you're a Libra?
It means I like to see both sides of things, the scales, which kind of fits. It really kind of fits. So, so I think in this case, astrology seems to be. I don't follow it closely, but I like to look at both sides of things and try to see what's fair.
Let's get the anxiety for you out of the way. I got one more trick question. I might as well ask it right now.
Yeah, let's get them over with here. Don.
Why were you born? I always get the same reaction every year. Why am I born?
Damned if I know. That just seemed to happen. So.
Well, this is a family show.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, any significance about your racial or national or cultural heritage that's worth reporting to my viewers? They want to know what you're about.
I've never had one of those, whatever those tests they advertise on TV done. My heritage, my dad came from Austria. Or no, he didn't come from Austria. Parents going back.
Make up your mind.
Yeah, parents going back. And then on my mom's side, I think it was English and Scotch, and maybe some Irish, I don't know. But I've never really done any of that genealogy. So, but just from talking to my you know, the next generation up, this is what I know of. Yeah.
You don't know of any red or black heritage?
I don't.
You're deficient?
I don't know. I don't.
I can claim a whole bunch of them. A religious preference, you got one of those.
I'm a Unitarian.
Unitarian?
Unitarian Universalist, yes.
What were you before you were a Unitarian? Did you grow up with a particular
I
belief?
actually grew up Methodist, but then, like so many people after school, I got out of it in high school, and then, you know, for a number of years didn't go anywhere, and then I kind of I just started checking out the Unitarian Church, and it just was a really good fit. So.
How'd you choose Unitarians?
Because of basketball. No, I know this is really.
Let's start this show all over
yeah,
again.
this is living in I'll make this short. Living in Toledo, Ohio. I was in my 20s, and I had some friends, and anyway, this Methodist church was in a church league and had a basketball team, and I kind of wanted to start playing basketball, and I, you know, he said, why don't you join the church? And, you know, I said, yeah, I can play basketball.
It comes back to me now. You've told me this story before.
About, you know, we're
it
talking
must be true.
Real depth of spirituality here, right? So I joined. I got into it. But actually, I did start going, and I got in this adult education class, and one thing they had going, they bring in representatives of different religions to talk to our class, and all different kinds of religions. They come in, speak, we ask questions, and a lot of different religions came in. Boy, you know, and very interesting, but nothing even close to me. And then they had a Unitarian come in, and this guy spoke to us. He was a newspaper reporter, actually, for the local newspaper, and I thought, that's what I am. That is exactly what I am. So, yeah, so I ended up leaving the Methodist church and joining the local Unitarian church. Basketball season was over, and I was going to go. So then I've been one ever since.
Yeah, I was Unitarian for a number of years, and then I discovered humanism, which is another variation, I think. They're very similar in their views. But yeah. And your formal education, you mentioned a little bit about that.
Bachelor's degree, education in history, and Mount Union College in Ohio, very small college. People probably haven't heard of it. And then I have a master's in history, U.S. and Latin American history from Akron University in Ohio also.
Your other languages, do you have any of those?
Not very well, no. If I'm going to a foreign country, often I'll try to learn the language as much as I can, but nothing really. French more than anything else. That's what I took in school.
You still have a bit of a problem with English too, don't you?
I guess it's noticeable, huh?
All right. And what did you do to earn your keep through life all these years?
Well, I taught high school social studies for 5 years right out of college, and then I joined the American Cancer Society, and I worked for American Cancer Society for 21 years, actually, and starting in Ohio, and then in Baltimore, and then coming out here, I was offered the job of state director for Oregon, and that's what brought us to Oregon 24 years ago. So I did that, and that was quite a long career right there.
Why did you choose that as a career, cancer?
Well, it was, I had gotten into trouble in
That's a story of life.
High
Come
school,
on.
I had written a letter to the editor, which I have a tendency to do, and they were, my girlfriend at the time was teaching at another school in the area, had gone on strike, and the local newspaper had printed this awful editorial basically calling all the teachers greedy and rotten, and I got really mad. I was taking this personally through my girlfriend, and so I wrote this nasty letter to the editor, and I got in some trouble for that. I said, I'm a teacher at Canton South High School, and the administration didn't like this too much, so I kind of got into trouble on that, and anyway, one thing kind of led to another. My teaching was fine. They said my teaching was, but it was this. So I ended up joining I just started looking for a new job, and the Cancer Society came along. It was a great job, and worked out very well for a long time.
All those years.
All those years, 21 years, yeah.
You learned a bunch?
Do I what?
Did you learn a bunch?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
still a passion of yours to keep looking at cancer and what's going on in the world in
Oh,
terms
sure.
of cancer?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So it's just, you know, I mean, the bad news is that, you know, I think it's almost half people get, 1/3 to 1/2 people get cancer sometime in their life. I mean, the good news is about 2/3 if it's preventable. So that's good, you know, and just through, don't smoke. You know, about smoking or being around secondhand smoke is about 30% of all cancer. And then your diet, you know, if you just, too much meat, too much fat, like that, bad diet can contribute a lot to several cancers. And then
Those kinds of things are important in avoiding cancer.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And then overexposure to the sun, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not kidding when they say use the sunblock, and you know, that can give you skin cancer. And so those are the basic things you can do to really, you know, lessen your chances of getting cancer. But and then all the good early detection things, and you know, there's a lot you can do to protect yourself. But a lot of times you just, you know, it's just luck of the draw. You know, you can do everything right and still get it. But anyway,
How's your health nowadays?
it's very good, very good, very
How
good.
about your mental health? No, don't go there.
Better
We
not,
know
yeah.
how it is.
Yes.
I got a poor picture. Yeah, and you got a partner, boyfriend, girlfriend?
My wife, yeah, my wife, yes, Holly, and she's wonderful. We just had a wonderful Mother's Day yesterday, and so yeah, she's great. So,
Does she know that you love her? You still love her?
I hope so.
Look in that camera and tell her.
I hope so. Yes, Holly, I do.
And you got kids?
2 kids, yeah. One back in Boston, and my daughter's back in Boston, and she's married with our one grandson, one grandchild who just turned 2, and then my son lives here in Portland, and he works for the Portland Trailblazers, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So
Sounds
we're
like
big Blazer
fun
fans
chat.
too.
You have any pets?
One dog, Scrappy, who is aptly named. Yes, Karen Terrier. Yeah, so he's a piece of work. Yes, he really is.
Okay, enough of that. And your political persuasion, are you still as far left as you were years ago?
You could say that. Yeah. Yeah, you could say that, definitely. And
What's most important for you to consider nowadays to address in your life? But topical issues that you're involved with, or things that you...
several issues, which we'll get to here. One, on the local front and state front, I volunteer for Common Cause, which is a great organization.
Yay!
Yes, and try to work on minimizing the effect of big money in politics. And so I volunteer for them, meet with state legislators, there's a bill that's been introduced several times to try to get public financing for candidates, state candidates that do not accept more than gifts of more than $250. So it's a really good bill. Hope it's going to come up again this next session, next January.
How many times has it come up in the past?
Oh, at least a couple, I think. And that's a really, really good thing to work on, is trying to get this big money out of politics, which is kind of infects all these other different issues. So working with them on that, statewide level.
Move to amend?
I don't work with Move to Amend, the actual organization. I love to see it. I'd, love to get Citizens United out of our lives. So, yeah, I'm all for that. But at the national level, I work more on fluoridation, which we'll get to in a few minutes. And we stopped it in Portland in 2013, and we stopped it in Newport 2 years ago, and I'm working on stopping it all over the country. So that's what I'm working. That's where I spend most of my time on. Is that
You are successful.
I'm an activist.
Yeah.
Not as successful as I want to be, but we're working on it.
Yeah. And generally speaking, it's a dumb question. Are you left, right, or center, or what politically? Are you a Trump supporter?
Well, no. I'm a member of the Democratic Party, and I'm a PCP, precinct committee person. So I go door to door, during election campaigns, and take part in Democratic Party activities, and so I do that. Yes.
Are you doing anything to keep bread on the table? Are you still earning any money anywhere?
No, I'm strictly a volunteer. I retired 6 years ago. I work for Physicians for Social Responsibility.
PSR.
PSR. I worked for them for about 7.5 years.
Yeah.
Taking on GMOs and the
remember
bovine growth hormone, which I've been on here with GMOs and RBGH, RBST several times, and but I retired. I retired when I was 61, and I've just been volunteering ever since.
And it works for you?
It works great. So I just pretty much volunteer full time. I'm still working full time. I just don't get paid for it. Real smart business plan. Huh?
Oh God, you. Yeah. Memberships. You mentioned a few in political, social, or civic organizations. Any more come to mind? So many you've been involved with and do serious work for them.
More campaigns. I don't belong to that many organizations. The church, I do. And the Democratic Party, Fluoride Action Network, which is the main organization nationwide that fights fluoridation. So those are my main affiliations that I belong to.
Are you having any problems with being a member of the Democratic Party when actually I supported Bernie Sanders and he's a Democratic Socialist? Does it bother you that he has thrown in with the Democratic Party?
No. I pretty much take a look at where candidates stand on the issues, and I just take it. Where am I on the issues? Where are they on the issues? And if we're pretty much aligned, that would be who I'd support. So, and Bernie's on a lot of issues that I support.
Yeah. Okay, persons from the past. You should remember this one. That you particularly liked, or if they're alive today, give me a couple of names that you particularly admire.
I'll tell you one of the most impressive people I've ever seen.
What?
I can't say I have a whole lot of heroes, but
sure.
Portland. We get all these great speakers come in here, one time or another. And a few years ago, there was a documentary on Daniel Ellsberg. And he came, and the documentary itself, I think it was the Cinema 21, and we went, and he was there. And, so he said a few words, showed the movie, and then he did, about his life and what he did with the Pentagon Papers and all that, and what he went through, and then he did like a question and answer. He spoke for a little while and did a Q&A for about an hour. Oh my God, one person so smart, and I think he was 78 at the time. He was so smart, so educated, so courageous, and had such integrity. He could have easily gone to jail for the rest of his life, for what he did, just because of what he believed in, that, we were lying about the Vietnam War, the government was lying. And he just did what he believed in. And I've just very rarely been impressed by anybody more than Daniel Ellsberg. I can say that. So, yeah.
Funny, I think about Werner von Braun. I'm an older man now, as you know. But my first time I attended a speech of a big celebrity in Orange County University, a big college there. And he took 3 questions from the entire audience. Von Braun.
Sure. Yeah, rocket science.
Yeah. And he took my question, and it kind of stumped him for a second. He's smart. And it was something about, well, I understand you're very knowledgeable about rocketry and those kinds of things. But nobody that I know of has mentioned the human factor. What about humans surviving what you're doing with your rockets? And he blinked for a minute, and then he referred to, I forget the other guy's name, who was the expert in human factors in space travel, you know.
Yeah.
Man, you couldn't talk to me for a week because he answered my question.
No
So I
kidding.
got an idea how you must feel about Ellsberg.
Yeah, yeah. I
You-
guess you have a history of asking people difficult questions, don't you?
Yes!
This started very early on, didn't it?
Yeah. Because it illustrates my curiosity about you, and also I think it broadens people's perspective about what you have been presenting about yourself, and other aspects, so a broader look at you and what you're about. It feels good to my ego to ask you these questions. And
Okay.
So what else? Well, we're almost out time for a break. Any other people that you look up to besides Ellsberg?
Oh,
Trump?
you know, I don't think so. No. You know, I have to say, I mean, in terms of, you think of the political realm or
Whatever.
I think, honestly, I think Jeff Merkley's doing a great job as a U.S. Senator. I think he really is. So
I think so too.
I really respect him, and just as a decent human being, I've been down to the state legislature a lot over many years on many topics, and I remember when I think he was a leader of he may have been the Senate president or the Speaker of the House, I forget which, or the leader of the Democratic Party in the House, and he gave me a chance I just wanted to meet with him. He said, yeah, come on in, and I just remember talking to him, and he was, a pretty high level, state legislator down there, and I was not even a constituent of his. And we just had a really nice conversation. He was just as down to earth as he could be. And, I just thought, he's just a nice guy. He just is. And so I think, if you have the same values, look at the issues kind of the same way I do. That's very important. And if you're just really nice, that really impresses me. That's a wonderful combination. So I could say, I think Jeff's doing a great job.
Decent human being. I haven't heard that used in talking about somebody else in a long time. He's just a decent human being. What more can you say?
Right, yeah.
Are you a decent human being?
I keep trying. Depends on who you ask.
I know. See, I knew. I'll give you a straight line. All right. So how do you see the mainstream media nowadays? Is it left or right or what?
Well, the mainstream media encompasses an awful lot of newspapers, radio stations,
Like Sean
TV
Hannity?
stations. I think I don't think you can generalize too much. I think you have to take it, which station, which newspaper, and like that. So
Okay.
it just depends on which one it is.
Okay.
If you're talking Fox News, you're far right. If you're talking MSNBC, it's left. If you're talking CNN, it's probably pretty close to the middle. So I think it just depends who you're talking about.
You got it. How about Free Speech TV with Amy Goodman?
I don't listen
Democracy
to
Now!
her. I'm a big fan of hers. So occasionally I'll get something on my email and I'll listen to her or read the transcripts of it. She's terrific. Yeah, She's absolutely terrific.
You're on the right side. Pardon me, the left side of it.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Continue. So let's take a break, and then we'll come back, and you can aggravate me with some more of your charts there.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we are back, and it's for you viewers who missed the opening of the show. Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people, like my guest tonight, and we've talked about who he is, and we're talking about what he's talking about tonight. About what's the title of this show?
How can humans be so smart and so dumb at the same time?
I'm looking for an answer to that myself. All right, well, let's get started here. You want to start off, or?
Yes.
All right. Lay it on me, sweetheart.
This question started with me buying a new car.
Buying a new car?
Buying a new car. That's what I want to talk about first. So I had this car I loved, a 2003 Honda Civic. Stick shift, I loved it. Great gas mileage, over 40, just great. But I am an environmentalist all the way, and I want to do anything I can to decrease my burning of fossil fuel. So I thought now is the time to buy a hybrid, plug-in hybrid electric. So started looking, ended up with a Chevy Volt, which is, you go like 50-some miles on a single electric charge, no gas at all, and that covers most of my driving during a day. I hardly, unless I'm taking a long trip, I almost never have to burn any gas. I just bought this a couple months ago. And this car, I don't have any stock in GM. I think if other people have other electric cars or plug-in, they probably love theirs as much as I love mine.
One of our crew members has an electric car, and I'm curious about what you're going to be saying.
Okay, people love them. And
Roger.
Yeah, they're just, what gets me, how smart people are. Like this car, I mean, just the fact that you're talking a couple of 1,000 pounds of metal, that a battery can zoom this thing up a hill, just lickety-split. It's that powerful. All these safety features that it's got on it, just like, my God, it's gonna, if you're in cruise control, you fall asleep at the wheel, you start coming up behind a car, it will apply the brakes itself. You get within a certain distance. If you start wandering off the lane, it will turn the wheel to bring you back in. It is, it's got in the side view mirrors these little car, gold signals. If there's somebody's in your blind spot, it will flash like that, And
oh, man.
It is remarkable. It is just a remarkable car. And that's what struck me. All these other bells and whistles, which technologically, anything you want, you could dictate a text message into the car, and it will send a text to somebody. It's unbelievable. So
yeah.
I just think of the geniuses that have figured this out. That have, I am so impressed with people that can do this, these engineers.
So they're so smart, huh?
They're so smart.
Smart, yeah.
And then they're working for Chevy or all these other car manufacturers that are building similar cars. And then you got the experience I had buying the car, which was like one example. Okay, I'm not going to mention the dealership. Okay, Chevy dealership.
Don't do that.
No. I set up a time for a test drive. I said, here's the car. I see on their website. Here's the car I'm interested in. I'd like to come out for a test drive. Set an appointment. So they're ready for my wife and I to go out. 2:15. I had a conference call at 4. I needed to be back. Okay. So I thought half an hour, each of us driving it. Half an hour just talking with a salesperson. Had plenty of time. I get out there. I had this appointment set up. There is no salesperson there to meet with me. Okay. They had to scramble around to find somebody. They didn't.
But you had an appointment.
I had an appointment. Nobody there. Second, then she had to go and find the car. The car wasn't ready. So it's a good like 20, 25 minutes, a half an hour before we even get started on this. And then the car that she had was not the car that I had asked for. It was some other car. So, that one's in the back lot or something. We couldn't get it. I could not believe it. I never made my conference call. I never got back in time. I just thought, how can people be in the car business and act like this. And that's when it kind of struck me, like the brilliance of the car against the utter stupidity of this whole experience of buying the car. And I had other kind of unpleasant experiences at a few other dealerships too, I won't go into. But that's what hit me right there. And that started me thinking, like, a lot of the things that I do as an activist, you know, I'm seeing the same thing. And I use fluoridation as a prime example. And by the way, in the title is, you know, I put this title out to kind of be provocative.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't that I think that I'm smarter and these other people are dumber. I don't think at all it is a matter of intelligence. I think it is just a matter of doing very intelligent things, or not doing very intelligent things, even though you have the capability of doing them. I mean, I have every belief that the people at this dealership could have easily had a salesperson there and on time, had the car ready if they want, you know. Why they didn't, I don't know. You know, and that I chalk up to some people just aren't as dedicated to their craft as others are, and that's just a difference, variation in human beings. So that's the best explanation I can have. But then I look at fluoridation, water fluoridation, okay? And a lot of these are questions that never occurred to me. And as I said, I'm an activist, and I worked very hard. I was on the leadership team of the Portland campaign to stop fluoridation in 2013. And then I was a campaign consultant in Newport 2 years ago to stop fluoridation in Newport. So I've worked a lot at the local level, and I worked at the national level too. But here's the thing about fluoridation, okay? Fluoride is a drug, okay? So you are actually putting a drug into the drinking water, okay? Now think of, you and I go to the doctor, we're sick, we go to the doctor. And the doctor says, well, you know, I want you to take this drug, take these pills. Now, think of what's going on here. The standard protocol, any patient, any doctor in the United States, standard protocol. One, it's for you, based on your medical history, your condition, okay, as an individual. Two, it is a specific dose. Take so much, that's it, you know, for a specific period of time. All these, you know, very specific standard safety protocols any doctor will follow. Has to be pharmaceutical grade, in other words, pure, no contaminants in it. And the doctor will explain to you the benefits, what he or she thinks it's going to do for you, and the side effects, possible side effects. Virtually any drug has side effects, okay? They can be harmful.
Sure.
Okay. Standard, you know, we all go through this. Now just think of putting fluoride, a drug, any drug, into the drinking water. Every one of these standard safety protocols is completely out the window. You have lost total control over any individuals at all. You know, all drugs, I mean, you could put aspirin, you know, one of the safest of all drugs. Lots of people have adverse reactions to aspirin.
Yeah.
Nobody would think of putting any other drug in the drinking water, because it's crazy, right? And yet we do it with fluoride. So what do the fluoridationists say? You know, well, first they say, oh, it's not a drug. Oh, it's not a drug. You know, well, yeah, it is, just by any standard definition, any substance used to, you know, cure, alleviate, prevent a harmful medical condition. This is a standard definition of a drug. And the FDA itself has said this is a drug if, okay, and this is why I have, here's Exhibit A right here. Okay, something that all of you have, you know, fluoridated toothpaste, or most of you have in your home. Now, if you look closely at the label at the back, what it's going to say for kids 6 or under, okay, under 6 years of age, if you're using an amount more than a pea-size amount, that's all you're supposed to use, okay. If more than used for brushing is accidentally swallowed, get medical help or contact a poison control center right away.
That's printed on the tube?
This is right, just those of you watching this tonight, look at your toothpaste tube if you're using fluoridated toothpaste, because it's going to say this or something very similar to it. Okay? because fluoride is a toxin. It's a poison, okay? So you can't ingest very much of it at all before it has adverse effects, especially if you're young. So the reason this is on here is because the FDA regulates it as a drug, and they require this label. If you buy fluoride tablets, you have to get a prescription because it's a drug, and the FDA regulates it. But if you put fluoride into the drinking water, shazam, it's not a drug anymore. This is how crazy, what is going on with the federal government, okay? This is, I'm not making this up. This is what is going on. And not only that, but the fluoride, this is pharmaceutical grade. It's not contaminated, what they put in here. What they use, and I swear I'm not making this up either, for fluoridating the water, about 90% of it in the United States is fluorosilicic acid. It is a hazardous waste byproduct of the phosphate fertilizer industry. Okay? A hazardous waste. So in other words, if this stuff, the same hazardous waste byproduct, goes in the air, it's a pollutant, and they can't do it. The industry can't do it. If they dump it in a lake, they can't do it. It's against the law. Okay? If they dump it in a river, it's against the law. They can't do it. They have to take this very same stuff to a hazardous waste facility because that's what it is, and it can be contaminated with lead and arsenic. Okay? Small amounts.
Sounds crazy.
Well, yes. So anyway, so this is, so again, but if you use this stuff to fluoridate the water, it's perfectly okay. So this is crazy. And what we've got now, which a lot of your viewers probably do not know, we have a lawsuit going against the EPA, okay, to stop, because fluoride is not just a drug, it is a neurotoxin. In other words, it harms the brain. So over the last 10 years, 191 peer-reviewed published studies on fluoride. 186 out of the 191 have shown it is neurotoxic. It harms the brain or nervous system. And this can manifest itself in lower IQs in kids, and it could be ADD, behavioral problems. This is what's going on.
And that's good data.
This is, yeah, these are peer-reviewed studies.
Okay.
Okay. And the most recent one, just last September, funded by, of all things, NIH, National Institutes of Health.
Yeah.
And worked headed up by these professors, scientists at the University of Toronto and a number of universities, Michigan, Indiana, Harvard, McGill in Toronto, and then working with the Public Health Agency in Mexico City. It's an international study. Okay. Bottom line, the higher the fluoride levels in pregnant women, the lower IQs in their kids. And this could easily be a 5 or 6 point drop in IQ between levels that are similar to being drinking fluoridated water and unfluoridated.
Why haven't I seen this on 60 Minutes, for
Well,
example?
it's just, it got a little bit of exposure, but not enough. And so this is going to be, a major, talking point in this lawsuit against the EPA, because we've asked the EPA, please, declare this stuff based on neurotoxicity, and this is just the latest one. Like I say, there have been hundreds of these studies, and many at levels that are, the same or similar, or slightly higher than what we get drinking fluoridated water. You think, now why are we doing this? So it's just, which makes no sense, And the main argument against this is, well, you haven't absolutely proven that this is going to harm human beings.
Absolutely.
You've got a lot of evidence, but you got some evidence, but you haven't absolutely proved it. So unless you absolutely prove it, it should still stay in it.
Sort of like global warming.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, so, yeah, excellent. So, and people say, but what about the poor kids? What about preventing cavities in the poor kids? That's the main argument they use. Well, effectiveness is barely, even what the CDC says, the main promoter of fluoridation, 25% reduction in cavities. All that comes to is about half a cavity per kid. That's it, if that. And if you compare countries with fluoridation without developed countries, there are virtually no difference in cavities whatsoever. So the effectiveness, it's almost nothing, okay, if anything at all. So why? Why do you have, and this is what and these are not dumb people by any stretch. They are very smart people that support fluoridation. Why? Why do you have the American Dental Association, American Medical Association, and Public Health Association all endorse fluoridation, okay? And so you've got all these people. Who's
going to make the money with this fluoridation?
Well, it isn't so much in this case. Usually you can point to a corporate somebody who's making money.
Yeah.
There is that element to this, and historically there was more, but for the most part now, the phosphate fertilizer industry, they have to dispose of this stuff in a hazardous waste facility. That costs a lot of money. If they can sell it for fluoridation, they're making money instead of paying for it. So definitely they are. But mainly it's the U.S. medical establishment, and people follow them. So all these people that say are in favor of fluoridation, they're not dumb at all. But why is it? Because authority figures. And that is, I think, the main point of what I wanted to say tonight, is that we all have a tendency to follow authority figures. If it's on a subject that we don't know that much about, and most people don't know the science on fluoridation, if we're not all that interested in, or if we simply just don't have time to really research. So it's just like, all of us do this, and I brought in a couple, like take the election. It's going on right now, the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a mailer I got from Ryan Deckert, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He's running for Washington County chair, okay? So he's going to put in, so who endorses him? The Portland Tribune, the Times, like that. Okay, so this is who is endorsing him. His main opponent in the Democratic Party, Catherine Harrington, she's going to put in the Washington County Democratic Party endorses her. So they're going to look to endorsements, and people look at this, say, okay, who do I trust? And it's their shortcut, because you don't know exactly what all their policies are. Or here's Kevin Barton for district attorney, okay? And who's endorsing him? Washington County commissioners and police chiefs and like that. And then his main opponent, Max Wall, he's got who's him. So we all do this, okay? We all do this. But what I've learned, and starting with Physicians for Social Responsibility and the FDA, saying that this recombinant bovine growth hormone was perfectly safe, and we knew some science, which we knew it wasn't. But I would do the same thing, because till I started working on this subject, studying the science, I just thought, there's our authority figures. The FDA says it's safe, must be safe. Fluoridation, CDC says it's safe, must be safe. And this is what most people do. And it is just amazing to me, the authority figures, how powerful this is, this tendency we have. And the scariest experiment, psychological experiment, I have ever seen was done by a Yale psychology professor by the name of Stanley Milgram.
Oh, yes.
You've heard of this. If you haven't heard of this, 1963. Okay, and he brings in these subjects, and it's supposed to be a word test, and he tells them, these volunteers, they get paid $4, I think, at that time, to participate in this. And one is a volunteer, kind of the teacher, and the other is a learner. And the teacher gives a question, like a word question. If the person gets it wrong, he shocks him a little bit with a little electric shock. He's in increasing levels, voltage, okay? And just to see, okay, is this going to have an effect on their learning patterns? So what he showed was, this blew me away. What he showed was that, because, and actually the volunteer they brought in to do this, to put the higher and higher levels of voltage, he didn't know that there was an actor behind the wall. He couldn't see him. and it was actually a pre-recorded actor's voice. And he'd say, "Oh, that's a little uncomfortable," or the higher, it starts getting, "Oh," and that, "Oh my God," and it starts to the point of, they get up to like 450 volts. And these subjects are screaming out in pain. And
It's an actor.
it's an actor, yeah, and it's pre-recorded. So the people administering this are saying, getting very uncomfortable, saying, I really, I don't like this. This is, but the Yale psychology professor, the voice of authority, said, "No, don't worry, it's not going to be no permanent damage. Just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it." And do you know what percentage of people kept shocking these guys all the way up to 450 volts, where they were, screaming out in intolerable pain? 65% of people went all the way to the top, 450 volts, just because, even though they were very uncomfortable, just because that authority figure, the Yale psychology professor, told them to do it. That is scary. But I think, and they've repeated this in variations in different countries and different groups, and comes out to about the same, each time. See that, and it is the susceptibility of human beings to accept authority figures in so many things we do, and that, and when you're talking about a fluoridation campaign, that is exactly why so many people, even though you can hit them with fact after fact, scientific data after scientific data, they'll say, "Well, the CDC says it's okay, so yeah, it must be okay," and the American Dental Association, and that is scary. That is just scary. So that's a little bit on fluoridation there, and then you get to what I consider probably the scariest issue we're facing, short of a nuclear war, is global warming. Same thing. How much time we got?
You got about 8 minutes
Eight
left.
minutes. So, global warming. So the evidence on global warming. So I got a few little. So a lot of you've seen probably this, the hockey stick. Okay, this is 400,000 years of warming and cooling of the Earth. And then you get to about the last 100 years, and whammo, this is shaped like a hockey stick. And this is what's going on. And we know this, and this has been attacked by some, but study after study has pretty much come out with the same conclusion on this. We are now above 400 parts per million. We are really in a lot of trouble, and it just keeps going higher. So, and the effects of this, again, it's not just a graph. You can see, a lot of you, this is kind of the iconic, polar bears. And polar bears rely almost exclusively on seals.
Yes.
For food. And seals, if there's no sea ice up around the polar regions, if there's no sea ice, there's no seals. And if there's no seals, there's not going to be too many polar bears. Okay, we know this. They're just not built for, swimming really, they can swim like that, but it just tires them out, it wears them out, or getting food on land, it's very iffy for them. We know what's happening with the polar bears. They are, and they can very well go extinct. And closer to home, this is Miami, right here. So the last 10 years, flooding in Miami has increased by 400%.
Oh, wow.
400%. And closer to where I used to live in Maryland, this is Annapolis. Okay, here's, you see some midshipmen there. So the last 50 years, flooding in Annapolis has increased 925%. And the next 50 years, this flooding in Annapolis, I've been there many, many times, a wonderful little town, it's expected to happen almost daily. So there is, 97% of scientists, and this, in this time, these kind of authority figures, they're for all over the place. I certainly, agree with them. We're in deep trouble here. We are really.
Not according to the Trump administration.
No, and that's just it. So you look at this, and I think, how can people, looking at this evidence, how can people deny, how can you be a climate change denier? And I looked just today, I went to the latest poll on this. Okay?
All right.
The latest poll. This is the latest Gallup poll, so I wanted to bring this, so I've got the exact. And what has happened, I think, in this case, I think it's still authority figures. I still think that is playing a role in this, only global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it, has become so politicized. I need to think, this is a scientific kind of issue.
Scientific.
But, but this is all human beings, and it's become so politicized between Democrats and Republicans. And here are the figures. 69% of Republicans said they think the seriousness of global warming is generally exaggerated. 69% say it's exaggerated. Democrats, 4%.
Wow.
Okay? 18% of Republicans think global warming will pose a serious threat in their lifetime. 67% of Democrats do. This is what seems to be happening here, is that I think people, again, I don't know what percent of the population really studies global warming in depth, although I don't think certainly don't have to be a scientist on this or fluoridation or anything else. You can, get the basics and make up, a good decision. But it is so politicized that I think that a lot of people, especially, the Republican Party, is officially, to the best of my knowledge, the only political party, not just in the United States, but in the entire world, that officially are climate deniers, or deny that it is a serious issue and a very serious threat to life as we know it. And I think it seems to be, in this case, the authority figures are political. Although I don't think it's all that way. I think many people that just think global warming is a serious problem, it's not because the Democratic Party thinks it's a serious problem.
You got 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's just they think that way to begin with, and it may be that way with Republicans too. You don't know whether the cause and effect here. Maybe one comes before the other. Maybe people that just deny climate change happen not because the Republican Party says so, but because they think that way anyway, and they become Republicans.
What has this got to do with your car?
Well, there is one hopeful sign.
All right, I'm waiting for it.
There is a hopeful sign here in that, bring it full circle, that I saw a poll by AAA, the Automobile Association.
Yeah.
20% of people say that their next car is going to be electric. And you do see this. You are seeing this more in Europe right now than you do. Really? So I think more and more people are catching on. And it may be more for economy. They see gas prices, and we've seen it here in Oregon, as they're going right up. And that's nationwide too. So maybe it's the economy, and maybe partly it's financial reasons, whatever, but for whatever reason, I think maybe the message is getting through, but I think the final analysis is, I think we need to choose our authority figures wisely. And, and it's...
I thought you've been doing this for a number of years.
And I know this is going to come as a complete shock, but the federal government is not always a great authority figure, or certain agencies there. So you really have to sometimes look beneath the surface a little bit and do a little bit of research, especially on, I think we know what the real key issues that are facing us.
Are you glad you bought the vote?
I love the Volt. I just absolutely love it.
Okay, Roger,
yes.
You're home free.
But for all you other electric car owners and plug-in hybrid owners, I'll bet you love your cars as much as I do. So it is.
If I had your money, I'd buy a Tesla.
Well, another reason. You get a $7,500 tax credit. That was another. That's another reason I bought this car at this time. That's a credit, not a deduction.
Uh-huh.
That's $7,500 So not only am I an environmentalist, I'm a cheapskate too. So they go right together as far as I'm concerned.
So thank you. We're going to have to wind down before they yell at me in the control room. It's close to time for us to stop visiting and get ready to say goodnight. Keep those pens and pencils handy because you may want to jot down something that we will show you in the closing credits. And thanks for watching. I invite you to give us feedback, both positive and negative, about any aspect of the show, and I mean it. Now I've got to tell you about a few public service announcements. To watch my shows on the web, Google Don Baham YouTube. There's a lot of shows recorded over the years, and you get all kinds of subjects involved here and good guests. And to learn more about humanists and humanism, I'm a humanist, as you know, go to www.americanhumanist.org, and there's a phone number to learn more about humanism. It's my favorite so-called religion anymore. To learn about the Alliance for Democracy, a good organization, go to the national website at www.thealliancefordemocracy.org. and the Portland, Oregon website at www.afd-pdx.org. And to learn more about my favorite, the American Civil Liberties Union. Without the ACLU, our civil liberties would be down the tube, worse than they are right now. We got to end corporate personhood. We got to go to move-to-amend.org to say that corporations are not persons,
That's right.
and money is not speech.
Yes.
Take our country back. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Remember KFC. Not Kentucky Fried Chicken. Dr. Don's KFC. Kind, friendly, and charitable to you too. And you too, and you too, and you too, especially. I'm glad you watched this, and we will see you next time. Take care.